bright lights, physical handling after the warmth and security of the womb can be traumatic. I know we've seen commercials and we've seen movies where babies come out screaming to me, oh my God, it's freezing, oh my God. But there could be that process where they're experiencing that, like, oh my God, I was okay. I was eating and I was cool. I was warm. I was good. But being in the womb, and then all of a sudden I'm now here, it could be tragic to them. And they could be colicky. They just want to cry all the time. And it's not, why in the world are you crying all the time? You're just crying, and then you're crying. So being born after a long, protracted labor, oh God, that was me, in which the mother and the baby have both become exhausted, or even being born by C-section. Some children develop a spirit of rejection because the process didn't happen naturally. There was a period that happened that took place where they then had to be removed from out of the mother's womb. Mother and baby bonding after birth is another place where in early life a child can be assured of where they fall and where their place is in the family and in life. It is in this bonding that if it doesn't happen due after, say, for health issues and things like that, a child could experience some sense of rejection. And in looking at that, I can relate to that, especially with the birth of Jordan. When Jordan was born, Jordan could not be put on me to, start the bonding process because he was too small. He couldn't breathe on his own. So when he was born, literally, he was whisked away from me, put into an incubator, put on a ventilator, and he was kind of, almost like a free fall because there wasn't any bonding, there wasn't any family or motherly contact with him, and it actually did not happen for me. It didn't happen for like 3 days because I had to stay in the hospital an additional 2 to 3 days, and when he left, he went in an incubator across town to Yale, so we didn't have that time. So when I'm reading this, I had to fight the spirit of rejection. Because most of the time, every day from the time that I was in labor that Saturday until he was born, doctors were coming in. I think my sister was getting aggravated at that point. They would come in every shift, and every shift they would say, well, we really aren't sure how much or what his likelihood of survival because he's too small. So we just want you to be prepared that he could possibly die. So this was constantly put into my head every 12 hours when the shift came. Every 12 hours, the shift came, doctors came in, said the same thing. Because he's too small, we're not sure if he'll survive, so forth and so on. Every 12 hours, I think my sister was just burnt. She was like, you know what, don't come in here again with that. We don't want to hear that. So when he eventually was born, I did not know what was happening because you're looking to hear a baby cry. But because he was too small, couldn't hear a baby cry. So they cut the cord, whisked him out, put him on a little thing, and took him down the street. So cry, never got a chance to really hold him. And even when I did have a chance to see him once I was discharged, I couldn't really kind of touch his skin to really feel that it was him because he was too small. And his skin was too thin, it was like paper. So the nurse would tell me, you can't rub on him, you have to just pat him and touch him because his skin could rip because it's like paper. So I'm a new mom with a newborn and can't even touch him, can't even embrace him. And at the same time, I am trying to fight off the spirit of rejection. I'm fighting off, I don't want to be hurt if he dies. That's where I was. If he dies, I don't want to feel the hurt and the pain of losing a child. So I had to fight resisting him. I had to fight not wanting to get connected and get close to him because I didn't want to feel the hurt of losing a child. So I had to literally make myself go to the hospital every day, sit with him every day, read with him every day, because the Lord showed me one thing. He says, I want you to see who I am and how powerful I am. He said, so you're going to observe how a child is born and what a baby looks like inside, but you're going to observe him from the out. So I'm watching him and I'm observing him, but I still never heard him cry. Never heard him cry because he was on a ventilator. So for a long time, I didn't have that opportunity. And you hear it, and it's a beautiful thing. And when I did have the opportunity, it was so faint and so small. It was like, oh my God, I can't even really hear it because he was inside of an incubator. But at the same time, I was still walking away saying, nope, if he dies, I don't want to be hurt. I'm not going to feel it. I don't want to feel it. And I would go. And when it did come time to what they call kangarooing, they would put him on me so we could then start a bonding. But at that point, it was a month almost. He had been in the hospital a month, and I was his mom. But to him, he didn't know if I was his mom because he had so many other people touching him, changing his diaper and things like that. So he really didn't know that I was, he didn't know I was his mom. To my thought processes, he didn't know that I was his mom. But in that same turn, I observe him and wonder, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, well, God, is he experiencing or has he felt rejected at all? Or does he feel that way? Because we didn't have that kind of bond and didn't have that type of, relationship where we could, because of circumstances, medical circumstances. And that was a challenge for us. And when people experience that, we have to look at the dynamics of rejection. We may see the outward effects of how a person is dealing with rejection, and our preconceived notions could be totally wrong. We may not understand why they react this way and how come they see things this way, because we don't know where in their life they experienced something traumatic in that way. And I was thinking about, there was something that Minister Jones had said on Sunday, which kind of relatively falls even in this area of rejection. And we're talking about prenatal rejection, but we're also talking about generational. Rejection is generational. If you experienced it, your grandmother experienced it, her mother experienced it, more times than not, you will at some point experience it. At some point. Especially if you are coming from a family that isn't big on hugs and kisses and love and, oh, you're so great, I'm so proud of you and things like that. You don't hear those types of things. You're more likely to dispel the same type of relationship, even with your children. You're not the one that says, oh, I'm so proud of you. Oh, you did such a good job. Because it wasn't a part of you. It wasn't part of your makeup. Generational rejection can be passed down through the generations of family. Parents who have children can develop this. And when we look at how people have suffered through hereditary rejection or have been rejected before marriage, find it hard to show love and affection to their children. Of course, they love them, but because, again, they didn't observe that in their house, it's a little different to be able to show that type of emotion and that type of feeling. So it is uncommon to hear a parent say, we're not an affectionate family. Have you heard that? Oh, we're not that lovey-dovey kind of family. We're not those kind of people. We're not that. So somewhere in there, something happened where a normal response is to love and show affection. But if there was some sort of situation that happened where it caused you to, back off, and who's to say it could have been a period of the mother could have been molested by a family member. So she's guarding herself from all the male figures within her family because of one particular incident. So when it comes down to her being able to show it, she's a little more challenged. Even when she becomes married, it's a little more challenged. And so there, you'll hear kids say, oh, my mom's not that way. My mom's not that lovey-dovey kind of person, but I know she loves me. But there's that shameful part that comes because of a situation that happened to her. So we're embarrassed to express it because of what had happened to us. Through material things such as gifts, and I've seen and listened to people where they're more apt to give you things than to show you love. And they figure giving you things was your affection and was your display of love. And so when you get into, you know, this place where you've got nice rooms and you've got toys and you get into, you know, other things, and when you grow up and you have homes that have, you know, been in poverty, they're most likely to want to do that because they don't want the child to feel like they missed out in anything because of where they had to live. And I say it all the time. My sister and I grew up in the projects, never knew a Christmas ever that I missed anything, never wanted for anything, never wanted for anything. And I don't even think we asked for stuff and didn't get it. My mom always provided it for us. But there are times where parents, because they don't know how to show that love, will overwhelm a child, will go overboard with wanting to give them gifts instead of giving them words. Words mean a lot. Pouring into your child means a lot. Having those fundamental words and those things mean a lot. So when we grow up and we get older, that's the way I know you love me, is by what you can give me. If you can't give it to me, then that means you don't love me. And it's because at some point we experience some rejection where you can give me a whole lot of words, but if you ain't got nothing in your hand to give to me, you don't love me. I can tell you, and you can tell me you love me all day long, but unless you got something in your hand to solidify that, then you really don't love me. And in our own experiences, we may have heard where we had fathers in the house, but they were absentee. They were in the house, but they didn't, you know, have a whole lot to say. They were watching TV, watching a game, or watching sports and things like that. And they weren't pouring into their daughters. And I love listening to Bishop and how he spends time with his daughter and with his granddaughters because, and he says that, I don't want no joker thinking that he gonna give her something. Having the wrong idea, thinking that, oh, this is how you show me love. No, this isn't how you show me love, by you giving me things, because things are temporal. Things are not going to last. Your words and how your actions will have a far better weight than what you give me here. This can break. This can get lost. This can get crushed. Things can get crushed. Things get lost. But your words, if you really mean them, they're going to stay with me. They're not gonna break. They're not gonna fall by the wayside. They're not gonna get lost, left in a car, or left in the store, or left on the bus. But your words mean something. And girls, growing up, we want daddy's affection. We want that male figure. We don't want you buying us stuff. We want dad. I want dad. Even if he got to yell and scream and holler because I didn't do something, dad's in my house. Dad loves me. Even though he's yelling, don't want to hear it, but I know he loves me. I know he cares for me. I know he's looking out for me. It's a loving yell. And for young ladies like myself who had to experience divorce between our parents, so you feel that rejection because you don't have the father figure in your house anymore. So you're looking for it, and because you don't get it, you feel rejected. And especially with fathers who make promises to do things that don't follow through. That's a form of rejection. They may not know it. They may be upset with the mama, but they're not realizing what they're now planting into the lives of their children. Same thing with mothers. Make the promises and don't follow through and things like that. Because boys need their mamas. They need their daddies. But boys love their mamas too. And boys need their fathers, even in a greater way, because that's where the training comes in. That's where the teaching how to be a man. I'm a woman, I'm a girl all day. Can't tell you about some things I can't show you. Some things because it's just ingrained in a male to do that. So I can take you probably to the door. After that, then you on your own. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm constantly pushing my boys. Go on with your father, go with your father, go with your dad, go, 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 go. Because there are some things that men can show boys not even saying anything. It's just being who they are. It's just displaying who they are. That is vitally important. So when children experience these things, that's the key and that's the indicator. That's how rejection now makes its way in. That's how rejection now creeps in because of what they've experienced growing up, whether it's prenatal rejection, generational rejection. Some young men don't know how to show love because it wasn't shown to them by their father. It was just, do as I say or do, follow the rules of the house. But he didn't see displaying of affection either to him or to mom. So him not knowing how to show love to a woman is because of what he wasn't shown. So when you see that and young men long for approval from dad, they want approval. They get into sports because they want approval, because dad likes sports. So I'm going to get into sports. And I'm going to try to do, as much as I can because I want dad to be proud of me. I want dad to show up and come and things like that. And when those things don't happen, that's where they feel rejection come in. I wasn't good enough. I didn't play enough, or I didn't make the grade, or I didn't make the team. So now I don't have that type of relationship, and I don't have that type of feeling towards my dad that I so longed for. Because in my mind, he's rejecting me. But in reality, he's working. He's taking care of a family. He's the provider. And because we long for it so much that we don't see the necessity that required him to be away and to handle the necessary things. But again, it's a thought process. It enters our eyes, it enters our ears before it touches and reaches our heart. Rejection. It comes through what we hear, what we see, what we experience before it really lodges here within our heart. And this kind of rejection, abandonment, is heavy. Girls, boys who have been put up for adoption, major blows, because once you get that realization that the woman who carried me didn't love me enough to raise me, didn't love me enough to want to keep me. So rejection builds up. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of anything. And when you get full stories, and when I think about Pastor Wallace and how she gave her testimony, powerful, powerful, when she said her mother left her in a dumpster. And for someone to then raise you as their own, but understanding how you became and how you came to be and to experience that, that's that, again, that prenatal rejection, which now, thank God, for the grace of God, she was able to be raised by a Christian woman. So on the far end, we can rejoice because we now know the mother was only there to carry her. And the woman who raised her was the woman to bring her to her destiny and to bring her to the place she was. But for some who don't have that spiritual mindset, it's a struggle. It's a constant battle. So you'll find that most people will always be people pleasers, attention seekers, because they're looking for some sort of reaction, whether it be positive or negative, because somewhere in the line there was some rejection that took place. So I need compensation. I need to change the order of things so that somebody pays attention to me. Whether they're yelling at me or whether they're saying, good job, I still need something to come from somebody else to kind of, solidify who I am and what I'm doing. I need that. I thrive on that. And see, God created us that we want to be loved. We want to love and we want to be loved. But in the course of what we're dealing with, birth defects, children with birth defects often feel rejection. Often feel it because parents weren't expecting to have a child to be birthed this way. And especially if they're not the first child. So now you have to kind of compensate for the birth defect or for the reaction of what comes. I think about Naomi, I think about Jordan. When they were born, didn't ask to come with those types of challenges, and they're rejected by peers. Young, we're talking 7, we're talking 6, and feeling rejection by peers because of what they look like. So we're asking, how does rejection enter? It enters in such a variety of ways. The color of my skin, I'm rejected because I'm what they call red bone, a high yellow, or whatever. I don't know. But in some communities, down south, I don't need to show up. I don't need to be there. Oh, she yells, she high yellow girl. And I used to get that from my aunts. I'm like, what do they mean by that? What does high yellow mean? But I'm like, okay, it must be a down south thing. But I was a light-skinned girl, dark skin, rejected. I'll never forget I was dating someone and his godmother said to him, you need to get a darker skinned girl. I was like, wow, really? Oh my gosh. Wow. But because I was of a lighter skin, she felt that no, you should be marrying a darker skinned girl. I was like, okay, well, toodles. Your loss. But we experience those kinds of rejections. Some are subtle, some are not so subtle. Even with our academia, you don't have degrees, you're rejected. Haven't finished high school, you get rejected. Didn't finish middle school, you get rejected. Because you're then looked upon at a specific socioeconomic lifestyle. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I am. Get to know me. Get to know who I am before you reject who I am. Get to know who I am first. But that's how we have to start understanding the underline of rejection and destroying it. Because if we don't look at what happens and if we don't address specific things within our lives, we will be held back. The enemy will use mental things as a stronghold for us. He'll use our features. He'll use how our size, our body sizes. He'll use where we are in line with family. He'll use those things as a stronghold to kind of keep us bound up. And when I was thinking about the word stronghold, I was remembering at a conference I had gone to, and the speaker had defined a stronghold as a fortress that's been built up in my mind by the enemy. a fortress that has been built up in my mind by the enemy. And we know fortresses are hard to break. They're hard to break into, and they're even harder to break out of. So I am debilitated by what I think may not be true. And sometimes it may be true. And so what? Because of the grace of God, I can overcome that. But if I don't feel that I'm an overcomer, because the enemy has built so much of a fortress in my mind that I second guess everything. I second guess every move. I second guess everybody's intentions. Oh, they just did it because. Oh, they really didn't want to do it. Oh, they were talking about me. Nobody was talking. Really. You just walked into the room and we were just like, hey, nobody said anything. But because we've dealt with so many things, we've dealt with rejection from parents and siblings. Sibling rivalries can be so much of a major form that constantly keeps us guarded. I don't want to put my guard down because I'm afraid you're going to hurt me, because I've been hurt. So I don't want you. I'll get you before you get me. I'll set you up first before you set me up. I won't be boo-boo the fool. And I was laughing at myself today. I said, Lord, help me. Help me, Jesus, because I'm driving in the car. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm driving in my car, and I'm coming in this direction, and another car is coming in this direction, and they're turning. How many times have you tried to put your foot on the gas so that person wouldn't turn in front of you? Guilty. Because you ain't going to get me. You ain't going to beat me. I'm supposed to go first. I felt the tightness in my chest. I said, Jesus, help me. Because the car was getting ready to turn, and I could see them inching. I said, oh, no, you won't. I'm saying it to myself in the car. Oh, no, you won't. You ain't going to turn before I turn. You ain't going to turn before I go straight. It's a car making a turn. Ain't even going in my direction, but I was ready to peel off so he couldn't get in front of me. Because something happened where I didn't want you getting me first. I didn't want you feeling like you got over on me. A period of rejection. I said, well, Lord, help me. Wasn't a big deal. But because my body had gone into such a physical response, had really nothing to do. The guy in the car on the other side of the street wasn't thinking one bit about me. And how do I know that there wasn't some sort of emergency that he needed to get to that he was not thinking and was getting ready to take off? And I'm thinking, you want to get ahead of me. You don't know me. He doesn't even know me. But because of an experience that I may have had, I don't want you getting in front of me. I don't want you beating me. Because something took place where I'm now guarded. And when we look at those things, and when we see how there are so many ways that our children are now experiencing it, they're experiencing by being teased and by being bullied and being held back. And many times where children have, not experienced many things academic-wise, and we've had to leave them back. So now they're being teased. Now they're experiencing that rejection from peers because you were left back. So now they've got to deal with that on top of bullying. And bullying these days is so far different than when I was a kid. My God, they can bully you online and on your phone and all of this stuff. And parents, we don't know because our children are now hiding it. They're holding it. They're not wanting to put it out there for you to see it. Now, when we were being bullied as kids, oh, your mama saw it because they were either following you home or they were, selling wolf tickets outside your window. You need to come outside and da-da-da-da-da. And then your mama could yell outside, go! But, now they can threaten your life online. And parents don't know. And our children experience these things. So when we see that they don't want to do specific things, they don't want to interact, they become more introverted and they don't want to talk and they don't want to be involved with things, it's because they've now experienced some sort of bullying. And I look at children who, don't have specific shoes and sneakers. I mean, the whole gamut. It's a gamut of things. You don't have the right sneakers. I remember Jared went to school one morning and we brought him some sneakers and he wouldn't wear them. Would not wear them. I said, these are brand new sneakers. Why don't you want to wear these sneakers? Oh, well, the boy at school said I had his sneakers. I said, did your father buy these sneakers? Yes. I said, well, they don't belong to him. I said, does he own the sneaker? Does he own the brand? Did he make the sneaker? That's bad. I said, did he make the sneaker? If he didn't make the sneaker, then that's not his sneaker. I said, is his name on the sneaker? No. I said, well, then that's not his sneaker. I said, if not for nothing, I said, they're Jordans. I said, Michael Jordan could say, you got on my sneakers. Hello. I said, they're Jordans. I said, so Michael Jordan himself could say to this kid who wants to bother you about wearing the sneakers, he could say to him, what you doing with my sneakers on? Oh, you wore my sneakers to school. Okay. And guess what? He has a right to say it because they were his sneakers. I said, they're not made just for him. I said, all the kids around the world who may like this sneaker are buying the sneaker. I said, so wear your sneaker, honey. Because we paid enough money for it. Put them sneakers on. But we deal with that. And another way that we deal with rejection is from parents' relationships with each other. Not even the parental-child relationship, but how our parents interacted with each other. We see that. We see abuse, whether it was verbal. We experience that. We see the rejection, living in what they call an unhappy home. Parents argue all the time, always heated, won't speak to each other, only talking to the children. Tell your father, tell your mother. So they're caught in the middle. And they're feeling guilty because they love both parents. They love them both. But because they feel like they're torn, I don't want to have a favorite. I don't want you to think I have a favorite. I don't want my dad to be upset because I really love my mom, and I don't want my mom to be upset because I really love my dad. And this is in one house. It could be almost a different thing if it was, a divorce and separation in two separate houses. But when you've got that kind of turmoil going on in the same house, and this child is feeling some way, somehow of rejection, that he feels responsible for what's going on. Children take on a lot of stuff that we really don't realize. Children will take on the responsibility. It's their fault that the parents are arguing. It's their fault that this isn't done and that isn't done. So when we're dealing with that, parents who smoke and drink and parents who were strung out on drugs, the child always in some ways feels that they have to be the mature, responsible individual in the house. And I was listening to Minister Jones on Sunday and how she was being transparent about her life with her sisters and how things happen with them. It's real. It's real life. And children experience those types of lifestyles. And we have to understand the full dynamic before we make a conclusion. Understand the full dynamics. Before I make a decision and a conclusion, I have to look. And at the same time, be prayerful at the same time so that I'm not being judgmental and that I'm not reacting in a way that could be even more detrimental. Because, again, I don't know history. I didn't live it. I wasn't there. I don't know. I didn't know that you had an alcoholic mom. I didn't know that your mom used to drive you to school and she was drunk as all could be. I didn't know that. So now I see why you press and you push and you're this way, because you had to grow up a lot faster than I had to. You had to start developing mature mindsets before I had to. I still had the opportunity to be a kid. I had the opportunity to be 12. I could be 12 and enjoy being 12. And you could not enjoy being 12 because you now have to be the adult because mom is drunk, laid over on the couch, and she can't cook me dinner. I got to fend for myself now. So I'm more guarded. I'm more serious. Listen, no. I'm going to be this way, boom, this is it. And not assume that I'm being too assertive. I'm just that way. I'm not assertive. I'm not trying to be arrogant. But I had to grow up a lot faster than most. I had to take charge. I'm 12 and I got to take charge. I was watching a movie where this young lady she was literally taking care of her mother to the point where she was thinking, budgeting out bills for her mother. Oh, that was his show. It's a show on NBC. And the young lady, her mother, could not budget bills. She couldn't budget taking care of just her and her mother. Where she was trying to tell her mother, Mom, let's just put money in this box and let's take care of the bills, and this is how we'll do. Mom couldn't get it straight. She couldn't get it right to save her life because every time she found some money, got a little piece of money, she was out with some boyfriend, spending the money to the point where now they're homeless. They're living in the car because mama couldn't take care of the bills. So now they're evicted. Lights are off. And this kid, who was all of 15, now has to go into the system because DCF has now decided to take her away from her mother. So now you got to go from foster home to foster home to foster home, and you can almost guarantee there's some sort of rejection in a foster home. You can almost guarantee it. So she's got to now grow up. I got to fend for myself because nobody's here to cover me. Nobody's here to protect me because I've been rejected. My mom didn't think enough of me to keep me covered. My mom didn't think enough of me to protect me. And now I've got to experience this life. Rejection. This is how it comes in. This is how it makes its way. And how we, as the people of God, we have to prepare ourselves for those that are coming in with these types of issues. Dealing with rape, dealing with molestation, dealing with drug abuse. We have to address and be prepared and observe the characteristics of an individual. And to see, not that we're going to be the psychologist and the psychiatrist and anything of that nature, because there are studies that have shown that some people will develop schizophrenia as a result of rejection because of what they wanted so badly and they couldn't. So they're developing personalities that will compensate for what they are not getting. Doesn't mean that they're purposely trying to do it, but because of traumatic experiences have now thrown me into another way that my brain is now trying to compensate. It's trying to protect me. It's trying to keep me from really losing my mind, but in actuality, I have, because there are times where people who have what they call split personalities or, bipolarism, where they will react to specific things and didn't realize that they did it. Didn't realize that they snapped at you and did all that. And it's because a stressful situation has now overtaken them, and the personality that's normally able to calm them has now taken in and has responded and has said things and has done things. And now you're looking at the individual like, what in the world happened to you? Why did you do such and such? And when they're looking at you blank face like, what do you mean? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes we don't want to understand and say, you know you did it. Don't play that game. You know, we know you did it. But in actuality, there are some people who will not remember because of a traumatic experience. Being raised with, you know, parents that had a lot of money, and their way of showing love was just kind of putting you to the side. They were more focused on the elite status they had. You were the kid that got sent to boarding school. You were the kid that got sent to other places because you weren't the poverty child. Your parents actually had a nice amount of money. But they didn't have the wherewithal and the time to take care of you, to show you love, to lavish you, not with gifts, but with love, but with concern, but with admiration. So that kid is more reckless because they had everything. They're more reckless because they want the attention, because they were rejected by mom and dad. So I want the attention. So yeah, I'll drink. Yeah, I'll smoke. Yeah, I'll sleep with whoever I want to, because why? This is where I'm getting what I wanted. I'm getting the love that I so desperately wanted. But it's coming from a variety of places, a variety of sources, because I've dealt with that rejection. I'm dealing with that rejection. And instead of addressing it, I'm letting it overtake me, and I'm going to handle it. And I'm going to make that happen. When we have relationships that are detrimental, when we lose family, sometimes even the loss of a family member brings a place of rejection because that's who we were connected to. So we're angry. Don't know how to react. We're angry. And we've had so many life-changing events, traumatic experiences that will be the breeding ground of where rejection begins. Because we were on chapter 1 and we're dealing with how rejection begins, where it comes, how it starts. It could be the smallest thing, and we didn't think that it was that detrimental. Now, as we've grown older, but I look at our children and what they experience and what they see. The internet puts everything out. They put everything out. And we can't watch them every minute of the day. And our children are exposed to so much and are friends with so many different people, friends with kids at school who experience a lot of things that they may not necessarily share with us. But they're at the place, they're too young to try to decipher what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, because they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to be the kid that stands to the side and doesn't smoke. They don't want to be the kid that doesn't report that girls are shooting up in the bathroom. I don't know if I was reading it or if I was listening to it, where girls are in high school shooting up in the bathrooms. But they felt some sort of rejection somewhere because this is what's cool. This is what's happening. This is what's up. I couldn't do it because I was too afraid. I didn't like needles. I didn't like pills. I didn't like smoking. I didn't like drinking. I was boring. Boring. I'm like my mom. I wanted to know I wanted to know how I got across the street. I didn't want nobody to tell me, girl, you fell across the street. I wanted to know if I went across the street that I walked across the street. Nobody had to help me. I walked across the street. But there were friends that I had who experienced it. We get rejected because of our religion. We get rejected because we love God. We get rejected because we're Pentecostal. We get rejected because we Baptist. We get rejected because we're Presbyterian. Religion, what I serve, because of people's mindsets. They feel that, one particular religion is so far better than the other. So when you say, oh, you're not a Baptist, oh my, wow. Well, we won't be coming. Thank you so much. Oh, we appreciate the invitation, but thank you. Appreciate that. But we've been rejected because we don't serve the Lord like they do. And oh, Lord, please don't be Jehovah's Witness. If you are not, you're not doing a watchtower. If you're not reading a watchtower, it's sacrilege, because you're not reading a watchtower. Our views, we get rejected. That's just how quickly we can be rejected. And I observed how they rejected a girl in school. I don't know if you remember her, Pastor. Her name was, I won't even say her name. But she was a Jehovah's Witness. Man, they pounced on her in that classroom. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? She was standing firm in what she believed, but boy, they were pouncing on her like she stole something. I'm like, okay. They were, oh, you're lying, and oh my God, you're gonna lie to the people. I'm like, this girl ain't lying to not one soul. She's just telling you that she's Jehovah's Witness. She ain't lying to nobody. Y'all talking about 144,000. That's my payment. Really? This girl is she's just telling you that she's a Jehovah's Witness, okay? And I'm Church of God in Christ. What's the big deal? Okay. Our views are different. That doesn't mean that I won't speak to her in school. That doesn't mean that she's any less of a person than I am just because she goes to the Kingdom Hall and I go to my church. Okay. It's cool. It's all right, because we have the right of a choice. We have that ability. We have that right. But people will take it so far and don't want you associating with their children, associating with their families, associating with anything related to them, if your religion is so different. And you don't know what benefits you could get from these individuals, what resources you could acquire from people who are even of different faiths. You never know what you can acquire, what experience. They're not trying to, reel you in, and you're not trying to reel them in. I mean, if God presents an opportunity for you to witness, then by all means, he's presented it, then go ahead and do that. But I'm not trying to recruit you. If you ain't trying to, okay, listen, do you. You're good. Hey, I don't want to do that, and we're still good. But there are fanatics that take it so far beyond that children, I'm looking at us as kids, I'm like, holy smokes, they are pouncing. And it's like, why? There's differences of opinion, and it's okay. But when you're kids, what do you know? But it helps us to see where rejection begins, where it enters. Yes, sir. Right, exactly. Ain't never been in a church. Ain't never set foot in a church. We're by what we know. Exactly.
benefit of the doubt, and therefore, again, just breeding this culture of rejection and not accepting people for who they are. And I think that when we look at the church, we're probably one of the biggest perpetrators. We're one of the biggest perpetrators. And I don't know if we do it on purpose. I don't know if we realize we're doing it, but it's happening. And a good example is this whole Snoop Dogg thing. Now, Snoop Dogg has done a gospel album. He's done a gospel album. I think Rance Allen's on it.
Oh.
Other people are on it. And he's caught a lot of flack from Christians about him doing a gospel album. Now, my question is, are you more concerned that he did a gospel album, or that he was once a secular rapper who has now found God and now, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it's one of those things where I think sometimes it's almost like we could, if we're not careful, we act like we're a club and a secret society, and if you don't fit these particular things that I agree with, then you're not allowed in. And so many people who would want to be a part of the church feel rejected. And we have to be careful with that because, again, none of us died for people. None of us got on the cross and died. So who are we to say can and cannot become a Christian?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's one of those things that we have to be very careful with because, again, that's why a lot of people will use that as an excuse of why they don't want to come. Sometimes I've learned that people can have some legitimate issue with other people. Like some people say, I'm trying to give a good example. Someone could say that, Pastor Middleton, he's mean. He's just a mean person. Okay, now that might not necessarily be true, but if every time they see me I'm doing mean stuff, then I give validity to what they say.
Right.
And so that's the thing that we have to be careful as Christians is that because 95% of the time we might really be thinking Christian stuff and doing Christian things, but that 5% that we act like a devil is when people will see it and they have to say, see, that's why I don't want to be. And so it's important for us to understand that we have to be mindful because again, we could be rejecting people into the kingdom that we didn't die for. And again, we have to be mindful of that because there's a lot of people that probably because if we don't like them, it really has nothing to do with like or dislike. It has everything to do with looking through the lens of Jesus Christ and how does he see them?
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus wants us to be a soul-centered establishment where we're centered more on souls than looking at people, what they got, where they come from, what denomination, all that. That's nonsense. But that's man-made stuff.
Exactly. Becoming denominationally driven.
Right.
Oh, if you're not here, you haven't been baptized. You're not of the kingdom. Kingdom has a whole lot of different colors. Truth be told, kingdom has a whole lot of different colors. And because the enemy is being so strategic, where he will use whatever a person has been experiencing with rejection, use that as their caveat to not come. Because of that stronghold, because of that fortress that has been built in their mind about church. So the moment they see it, see, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I can't come in there with that. I can't walk in there with, this skirt on. Or I can't walk in here with those pants on. I'm telling you, Pastor Middleton helped me. Because wearing pants in the church, Lord Jesus, you were going to hell quickly. And oh my God. And please don't minister up here. What? Sacrilege. How in the world could you do that? The mothers are rolling over in their grave. But that fortress built there couldn't get to where it was. I will tell you about a fortress where they said, you don't go to the movies, you don't go to the movies, you don't go to the movies, you don't go to the movies. And I went to the movies with my boyfriend at the time, And we came out the movies, and because the way the lights were shining, it was up against the wall, nice and bright. I thought the rapture came. I was jacked up. My heart was beating out my chest. I'm like, oh God, it's the rapture, Jesus. I'm so sorry. Too late now. Girl, that's it. I'm like, you can't ask for forgiveness now. I mean, I was having a moment from walking from the movie theater to the car. He didn't have a clue what was going on. I was having a fit. Oh God, the rapture that came out of Lord Jesus, don't leave me. Too late, girl. You asking him to don't leave you. You've been outside 5 minutes. He gone already. But because of so much that has been ingrained in us, because we have these preconceived notions, because we are pushed and pushed and pushed to have this just one way of thinking, one way of doing things, and because someone is doing it differently, someone comes about it differently, then it's considered wrong, and we reject it. I reject it because I don't like you. And it could be right. The method could be fine, the method could be great, but because I don't like you, I don't want to be bothered with that. And we have to be careful of that. We have to be mindful that the enemy is being very strategic in how he will keep a fortress in our mind. He is being strategic. He wants that stronghold there, that stronghold of rejection. He wants to keep it in our mind, that fortress where we cannot break out and no one can break in. No one can get in. No one can tear down that wall because we've been rejected so much. We've been hurt so much that I refuse. I refuse to let anybody hurt me. I refuse to let anybody get over on me. I refuse to let anybody talk to me any kind of way. Now, there's a way that you speak to people with respect, don't get me wrong, but people, before you can even say anything, you ever see how people kind of build a wall automatically? You haven't even said anything, and you can just walk up, and you can almost see the building coming up, and their body posture changes, and because, oh no, you kind of get this, just make sure you know when you come walking up to me, how you gonna approach me. You can feel it, you can see it because of what has been experienced. And if we want to win the people of God, and if we want to be free, we got to start peeking and looking and investigating and paying attention and start digging and pulling back some things to realize, hey, I've endured it. Lord, help me get over it. Because we have to have a testimony. We're going to be living testimonies to someone else. Because there will be a person who comes through those doors who's had the same issue we've had. They've experienced some issues that we have. And we have to be confident enough and confident in God enough to be vulnerable and share a testimony. Been there, girl. Done it. Oh, I could tell you. I've been there. I've done that. I've experienced that. I could tell you how you're feeling right now. I know. But we have to be comfortable enough in God to be vulnerable enough to express and to share how we've come over that circumstance and how we've come over the situation and how we were able to see that, yes, my mindset was totally in a different place and I wasn't even in a clear mind because I was so overwhelmed and so taken by what I had experienced as a kid. Sometimes we have things that we're still holding on to. They're just, ooh. And it doesn't come up until a specific situation happens. And then what we thought we were away from and got over, it's like, whoa, where did that come from? thoughts we didn't think we were still having, and emotions we didn't think we were still capable of even pulling up, now we have them. And we react to them. We act on them because of what we've experienced, because of the life that we had. But because we have a new life in Christ, he's taken all of that away. He's taken all that away. But we're dealing again with how it gets in, how it starts, the origin of it all, the genesis of it all, if we could say that, where it began, and how we can get through it with God, and how he can make a difference in us so that we can make a difference in someone else. Amen? Amen. We're finished with chapter 1. Again, I will give the name of the book that we're using, and it is Destroying the Spirit of Rejection. If anyone would like to purchase the book, and we can all follow through together. Destroying the Spirit of Rejection, Receiving Love and Acceptance, and Finding Healing. The author is John Eckhart, E-K-E-C-K-H-A-R-D-T. Do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Destroying the Spirit of Rejection.